All right, hour number 2 of the Monty Show. Let's get into this Utah Jazz thing because this is wild. And I usually do not talk about things like this. So Lauri Markkanen got paid yesterday.
Right.
Lauri Markkanen got
Lauri.
paid yesterday. Not surprising, right? Like, not surprising at all. Jazz had the cap space saved. They're fine.
Yeah.
They have $10.4 million. It's a huge contract. They upped his current year salary to $42.1 million. Told you that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Not really surprising.
Not surprising at all. Going through the day, the phone rings yesterday. Somebody we talked to around the Utah Jazz calls me and just gets into me about Lauri Markkanen and talks about how the Salt Lake Tribune published a story because I mispronounce Lauri and I don't say Lauri Markkanen. The proper pronunciation is Lauri Markkanen. It's proper pronunciation. Great. You listen to the level. The folks at the Jazz listen to the level on this show that they're calling me, talking about the fact that the Utah Jazz and the Salt Lake Tribune wrote a story directly pointed at me, to which I say, you guys really have to get a life. If here on the Marty Show,
the show that sucks, that's terrible.
Nobody in Salt Lake listens, even though we have by far the largest listenership in Salt Lake City of any sports talk show. And just gets into me about, all that it's personal with Ryan Smith in this show. It's not personal. It's not. Talking to me about what I said about Abravanel Hall yesterday. Abravanel Hall is essentially the home of the Utah Symphony Orchestra, who I happen to support. I was just there on Tuesday night. Great show. Ryan Smith, if he had his way, would remove Abravanel Hall. Thankfully, municipalities are fighting him on that. The city of Salt Lake and the county are fighting him on that. So you're going to remove one of the most important fine arts venues in this state, Abravanel Hall. On taxpayer money, you're going to use to do that. And then you're going to get upset when I say, hey, you're going to remove Abravanel Hall. Like, this is the stuff that's wild to me.
Yeah.
We were absolutely correct on Lauri Markkanen. Without a doubt. We got that story 100% correct, and we got it before anybody else. Awesome for us. It's wild to me that the Jazz and the Salt Lake Tribune listen to the show so much that they allegedly pointed a pronunciation guide at us in the paper yesterday. I didn't read it. I largely think the coverage of the Jazz by the Salt Lake Tribune is terrible. I think, and we talked about this as well, that Ryan Smith controls the media in this town. You don't question Ryan Smith because stuff like this happens. They want to get into you. They try to intimidate you. And it's wild to me that this is the level you go to. You tried to take a victory lap by telling us how much you listen to the show and that the Salt Lake Tribune published a pronunciation guide pointed at us. Okay, cool. I'm thrilled. Congratulations to us.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And for all the hyenas who are like, oh man, nobody listens to your show. Well, apparently Ryan Smith and the Jazz do. Apparently the people at the Salt Lake Tribune do. Apparently a lot of people do.
We didn't ask to be called.
Our largest market is by far the state of Utah, and our largest city is Salt Lake City, followed by South Jordan, West Jordan, and Sandy. It's not a secret. We have a huge listenership in the state of Utah, and I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Utah Jazz, for listening to the show. Thank you, Salt Lake Tribune, for publishing content based on what we say. We appreciate that. It's very flattering. Very flattering that you do so. And I love it. The best part about this is we got it right on Lauri Markkanen. And if you want me to go out of the way to say his name right, I say Lauri Markkanen. Lauri Markkanen. Lauri Markkanen.
And I love that it's like it's the only thing that you can pick on. Like we get called, and the first thing you want to bitch about is how we say dude's name, as if it's it like I would understand if we were saying all the wrong stuff, and like we hadn't been accurate, and like our reporting's terrible, and but I just am surprised that we get calls, and this isn't the first time this has happened in the life of the show. I mean, this has
Not the first
happened.
time at all.
This has happened multiple times. Like, this is not new. It's not even. I'm not even upset by it. I actually think it's funny, and I actually think that the idea that the strategy to I don't even know what your strategy is, to be honest with you, dude. But the idea that you thought it was a good idea to call my guy here, and I guess, like, as I would call it, play bully ball, like try to say you don't even know how to pronounce dude's name. Your show sucks. Like, you guys are like, you're just like spewing negativity. And it's like, bro, the numbers literally say, like, I don't know how many people know. You can go on the internet,
The
interwebs. Sorry, I want to make sure I pronounce it right. You can do that and get the listenership numbers for pretty much any radio station you want to look at. Like, you can get them. You can get a pretty good idea of how many folks listen. It may not be specific to like the very day you're looking, but you can get a pretty general idea of like what you're looking at. Dude, it's not even a conversation. It's not even close, bro. And the reason it's not close, and this is what folks at the Jazz and other professional sporting organizations don't understand. The radio is limiting you. I don't care who you are, where you live. The local radio station does not reach as many people as YouTube does, as the cell phone does. I'm sorry. I know that's upsetting. I know that that's not what you want to hear, but it's the truth. Why do you think that we're seeing this wave of guys like Jim Rome going to the digital realm? Dude, Jim Rome yesterday on his show said that now that he's on X, he's now on TikTok, he's now on YouTube. They're putting out YouTube content with regularity, Instagram. Like, this dude is expanding into the digital space, into the cell phone world. And you want to call us and you want to question whether our listenership's bigger than other folks, and you want to then say that you don't listen to the show, but then you want to prove the point you do listen to the show so much that you're trying to correct us on how we say someone's name. Like, I don't understand the strategy. This is what I don't get. I would be fine if you called us and were complaining about something specific that was actually like wrong. I got news for you. Lauri versus Lauri may be the wrong pronunciation, but that is the only thing that we may misstep on occasionally. Like, we got the contract terms right. We told you that the Warriors were unwilling to trade Kuminga in pods. We told you that Danny Ainge was being very stubborn, asking for the moon, and that the deal was only ever probably 50% likely to close. Like,
so the question I have is, if the Utah Jazz are serious about winning, who are you going to go and get now that's a veteran to build around Lauri Markkanen, John Collins, Colin Sexton? Who are you going to plug in there? And the answer is you're not, because you're not going to go and spend money. And you're going to say, well, we have this youth movement and we got to play the young guys, and you're not going to win. This was not a move. And I think it's hysterical that people are like, oh, Danny's got a secret plan just because you don't know it. There are no secret plans in the NBA. You're either rebuilding or you are competing for a championship. That's the reality of today's NBA. And when you fail in the draft as much as the Jazz have, when you repeatedly refuse to pay players, and now you've paid Lauri Markkanen, essentially you've given him a $200+ million deal. What are you going to get in return for that? And will Lauri Markkanen be on this roster when this contract expires? Because don't forget, he loves Utah. He wants to be here. His family likes being here, and you guys love him so much. Okay, great. Great. Will he be here when this contract expires? My guess is he will not. So I love the guy. I am a fan of Lauri Markkanen. I think he's a fantastic player. I told Like I did a show in Sacramento the other day where I was telling them it's a fantastic player.
Yeah.
This guy's never played a game of consequence in his career. Do you understand that? That this guy has never played a game where a championship was on the line. This guy's never played a game where he was the best player and counted on to do that thing in that moment to win or lose at the highest levels of basketball. He's never been in that situation. And you just paid him like he has. So now you better put him in that situation. But you can't, because you won't spend money because of your investment in the NHL. You won't spend money because of the money you have to outlay on your arena and on acquiring the NHL and on the downtown renovation. And the biggest complaint is you say you're a billionaire, Ryan Smith, but you don't act like a billionaire. You don't. Are you Steve Ballmer? You're not. Okay, maybe you don't have the billions that Steve Ballmer has. Are you the Cronkies? Okay, maybe you don't have the money the Cronkies have. But please stop selling me a bill of goods that you somehow love downtown Salt Lake and you want to be part of what's right after you tried to move this team to Draper.
Which I feel like people just forgot.
And then essentially what you did is you threatened to leave downtown Salt Lake and leverage them giving you taxpayer money without a ballot initiative. And then you wanted to eliminate Abravanel Hall. And I have no idea what people were thinking, giving you access to that block of land downtown, because the arts matter. I know you don't think that apparently, but the arts matter. It's wild to me.
And then you want to say that we're making it personal, which that assertion, I just feel like couldn't be more untrue. Like, we go out of our way every time we talk Jazz. And I feel like if you've been listening to the show, you would agree with this. Every single time we talk Jazz, I go out of my way to say, I'm sure Ryan's a good dude. This is not about trying to make it out like Ryan's a terrible human being, because he's not.
He's not. We don't call him names. We don't, like, I don't know Ryan Smith personally, but I judge people based on their actions. He's not accountable. He does not do local radio. He does not do interviews. There is no level of accountability. He did not put this on a ballot because he didn't want to be held accountable. Ryan Smith has been handed everything and has never been held accountable for it. Never, not one time has he been asked, why does he need a taxpayer handout? You're a billionaire, sir. Why do you need a taxpayer handout? Why do you not value spaces for the arts like Abravanel Hall? Why do you not believe that you should have oversight of the public? He doesn't want to answer those questions. So what does he do? He goes on the Pat McAfee show. He doesn't. Do you see him going on any show that will question him? When has the Salt Lake Tribune ever questioned him? When is the sports radio station he owns and the church operates, when have they ever questioned him? When is ESPN 700, the local non-church affiliated station, when have they ever questioned him? Never. And they're not gonna, because he has leverage over them. That's why you don't hear them questioning what is the direction of this franchise? When are we going to hold the Jazz accountable for being terrible in the draft? For being terrible at developing players? Like, what do we get out of Cody Williams this year? What do we get out of Taylor Hendricks this year? You already told us that Keontae George is not a number one point guard. Okay, who's your number one point guard then? Because it can't be Jordan Clarkson. When is somebody going to ask, at what point do you fall on the sword and admit that you made a mistake with Jordan Clarkson? Because he has zero trade value. Yeah, everybody was pissed when we said, hey, it was shocking to the NBA when he opted into his contract and then you signed him to an extension. And everybody said it was a mistake, but every Jazz fan was like, you don't know shit, Monty. Okay, well, where are you at now? Where are you at now when he has no trade value? What are you doing with Walker Kessler? All questions you don't want to answer.
What happened to a guy like Jared Butler, an NCAA championship caliber point guard that you drafted, who washed out of your organization because you said that he wasn't his willingness to work hard? Like, allegedly, the story goes that Jared Butler showed up to camp out of shape,
Which I would agree with.
So, okay. So you're saying that this dude thought it was okay to show up to your camp out of shape. So, okay, you can make a reasonable argument. Hey, that's on Jared Butler. You could also, if you wanted to be a red ass about it, say that, hey, well, maybe some of that's on the Jazz because, hey, maybe the expectation wasn't set properly. Most of it's on Jared, some of it's on the Jazz. But that's another guy I point to, like, that dude, like, just disappeared off the face of the earth. Like, you never hear anybody talking about Jared Butler. And so then I start going down these draft picks, and it's very storied. We're not the only ones saying it. We don't need to go, digging through like 20 years of Jazz draft picks to tell you that, hey, the draft hasn't worked out for the Jazz. They've missed multiple star players. Devin Booker's one of the frontline guys. Like,
you drafted Taylor Hendricks and Keontae George when you could have drafted Derek Lively, when you could have drafted down the board, and this one's going to be a kick in the cock, freely admit it, Brandon Pajemski went to Golden State at 19. Could have had Brandon, you could have had Cam Whitmore.
But here's the question. With that being true, let's say that they had drafted Pajemski.
Mm-hmm.
Would Pajemski be Pajemski if they had drafted him instead of the Warriors?
I don't believe that he would.
So
I don't believe he would.
It begs the question. When you look at these drafts where they could have gotten this guy, that where, they select Key here and guys after Key got drafted. Like, what is Keontae George going to become? Somebody that I follow as someone who follows the Jazz, a case study, if you will. I'm watching and I'm following Ochai Agbaji's development with the Raptors. Played Summer League this year, looked more mature, looked more ready, doing his thing. If that guy turns into a 3-and-D wing that maybe isn't like the best player on your team, but certainly is like the up the alley of like an Andre Iguodala style player where you don't need him to do a lot. You need him to simply play defense on the other team's best player and then knock down the corner three once in a while. If he turns into that, I'm going to ask you, hey, why did you not keep him? Why would you not keep a guy like that? Because I look at the roster now and I say, wow, like, you just signed a max contract to Lauri Markkanen, and you don't have a 3-point shooter on this team. You don't have a guy that's a knockdown 37% plus 3-point shooter. So I'm just telling you guys, this isn't personal with Ryan Smith.
No.
And the next time you want to call us and say that it is, you're the one that's going to look silly, because we've gone on the record multiple times, like every time, and said it's not about Ryan as a dude. It's about his actions. We're taking him at his actions. We're taking it at face value. And the roster speaks for itself. And we're not the only ones wondering, what is the direction of this organization? Because I don't know what it is. I think the best question today, after Lauri signed this deal, is, okay, so you've got your star player now, your alleged star player. What's next?
But I even go to, if you go back to 2020 with Doak and Saban Lee, and
yeah,
they traded the rights to Saban Lee. They drafted Udoka Azubuike. And I think that draft was a huge miss. A huge miss. And I say to people, well, you drafted Udoka Azubuike before Jaden McDaniels, before Desmond Bane. Like, guys that, and I understand low end of the first round, but those guys have turned into solid contributors.
How is it that other playoff teams or other teams of consequence in this league identify these guys and you don't identify them? Because that's what we're really talking about here. We're talking about hey,
Correct.
your process of looking at the draft and scouting pre-draft and understanding, hey, this is somebody who right now with their college skill set, what they've shown us, we can take that guy and transform him into either a 6'7" guy coming off the bench or a starter. And that's the issue right now, I feel like, is that like Cody Williams it might be the most perfect example of this conversation. Here's what I love about Cody Williams. He's explosive. He's got a great first step. He's phenomenal in transition. His frame allows him to fly high when he wants to, and his length will allow him to be a good defender should he be developed.
He should be a plus defender.
Yes.
There's no doubt about that.
And when you look at him, obviously the jump shot is the first thing everybody goes to. And the question is, hey, you've got Markkanen. Can you develop Cody Williams into all-star level player? Might be aggressive, but into a starting 5 contributor that can give you
a top 7 guy on a championship roster. Can Cody Williams project to that?
I don't know.
Because you're not somebody like, again, I think another great example, 2018. The Jazz draft Grayson Allen, 21st pick. In front of Anthony Simons, Moritz Wagner, Robert Williams III, like guys who have turned into legitimate play, like Jalen Brunson drafted 33rd in that draft. Like guys that Mitchell Robinson, Gary Trent Jr., you got nothing out of Grayson Allen. And I understand you wound up moving him and you got nothing out of him. And what did you turn Grayson Allen into? You turned Grayson Allen into Mike Conley, right? He was part of that deal. That was Jay Crowder, Kyle Korver, Darius Balsley. And you turned that into Mike Conley. Okay, Mike Conley was huge contributor here, really good Jazz man.
Great run.
Part of your best teams in recent memory. But again, I just ask you, you had opportunities to draft guys. And the guys you've drafted have been a complete bust. So here nor there. There endeth the lesson. I just think it is spectacularly interesting to me that you guys pay this much attention. And I tell you every day, I have a love-hate relationship with this show. I truly do. I hate getting up at 4 a.m. But sometimes you need a reminder of why you do the show. This is why we do the show. Because when the Utah Jazz are telling you, and this particular person I talked to yesterday wants to know who I talk to on the regular at the Jazz, wants to know how we're getting our information.
Which is obviously a confirmation that we've been accurate and we've been right.
And we're not telling you who we talk to. And I always love the guy that's like, oh my God, tell me who you're, fuck off. Yeah. That's it. My source is fuck off. That's who my source is.
Yeah.